of the soul and our love for Krishna. Sharanagati is the simple, pure, innocent motion of the heart that Krishna, everything is yours. I am yours. So the Gopis, they just wanted Krishna to be happy. They wanted to offer everything to Krishna. They didn't want Krishna to be their husband so that they could enjoy Krishna. They wanted Krishna to be their husband so that they could give complete enjoyment to Krishna. Not on any physical or material level, but on a totally spiritual level of bhav, or spiritual love, beyond all designations. And our acharyas explained Katyayani for the Gopis is Yoga Maya, the expansion of Sri Radha. Because there's one energy, Parasya Shakti Bhavadaiva Shruyate, and all energies are emanating from that one ultimate energy. Krishna is the Shaktiman, Sri Radha is the Shakti. Mahamaya is the energy that covers people in material existence to forget their relationship with Krishna and infatuates them with these mundane egos and designations. And Yogamaya is that which facilitates deeper, more intimate, loving relations with Krishna. It's the same energy. So when Gopis are worshipping Katyayani, they're worshipping Yogamaya. They're worshipping the divine, supreme, eternal spiritual energy of the spiritual world. Because her name is also, because Katyayani is not different than that. It's just a matter of what your consciousness is, whether Katyayani is the spiritual energy or the material energy. In the Vedic literatures, when they talk about Durga or God's spiritual energy in the spiritual world, sometimes it's called Durga. Durga, in the context of worshipping for material things, is Mahamaya. Durga, in the sense of worshipping for pure, unalloyed love for Krishna with no ego, is the spiritual energy. It's all different, various designations or expansions of Sri Radha, Subhadra, the Yogamaya potency, according to our desire. It's manifested in different ways. So the Gopis, they are, on one level, they're doing the traditional way people in this world, at that time, the culture of how to get a good husband. People would worship Katyayani, which is Durga, material energy. So they're appearing to do that, but actually, they're worshiping Krishna's highest potency. Because they're asking for unalloyed, unconditional, loving service to Krishna. The verse, Nadanamna janamna sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishwari bhavatad bhakti rohoitaki tvai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us this. This is the fourth verse of Shikshastakam. And it develops into higher, deeper stages. I do not want wealth. I do not want the opposite sex. I do not want any of the pleasures of this world. Gross pleasures, subtle pleasures. I don't want to be known as a great scholar. I don't want followers. I don't want fame. I don't want any amount of sensual enjoyment. I don't even want liberation from suffering. Let me suffer. Doesn't matter. I only want to serve you, birth after birth after birth. Such a high state. How many can actually, from their heart of hearts, when they're going through difficulties in life, offer that prayer? We may say it. Do we really mean it? Are we really willing and eager, birth after birth, Krishna, whatever you want to do to me, I'm yours to serve? we go through a little difficulty, Krishna, save me, get me out of here. That's our aspiration. The ultimate fulfillment of this verse, the beyond what this verse ultimately brings us to through Shikshastakam, where we're praying, I don't want any amount of pleasures, sexual pleasures, wealth pleasures, fame pleasures, kanaka, kamini, pratishta, these things that people are all so eager for. I don't want any of that. It culminates in the Gopis worshipping Katyayani for Krishna as their husband. Why? Because to be the husband of Krishna for them, it means absolute, total, body, mind, soul, life, everything is for Krishna's happiness, nothing for me. That's what they're doing austerity for 1 month. They're just eating this habishan, this khichdi. Prabhupada said it's mung dal with rice, no spice, no turmeric, no salt, no spice. And for you brahmacharis, no chilies. 1 full month. That's all they ate. And they would go early morning, it's very cold, it's the winter time, they would take their baths, they would make nice deities of Katyayani in the mud, of Yogamaya, and they would offer simple things and opulent things like sandalwood paste and garlands and spices, and offer so many nice things. And they would pray. They were praying, in their heart of hearts, they were praying, let me just give my everything for Krishna's satisfaction. And the way they were doing that is, let Krishna be my husband. So this is pure devotional service, because they had no material desires, they had no material designations, they were liberated. And Krishna wanted to reciprocate. So early one morning, he took some very little cowherd boys who really were too young to know the difference between what boys and girls are and all that stuff. And he took their clothes. And the Brajabasis, they come and offer their clothes to that tree. This is the symbolism of it. Take away our egos. Krishna, I offer you my life. We're praying, take away this ego that keeps me away from you. All my nadanam na janam na sundarim. This verse that we have just cited from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is actually the spirit of putting your clothes on the branches of those trees, or putting a cloth on those trees. I'm not a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. I'm not a Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. I'm not a man, woman. I'm not of any race or anything. I'm not learned or illiterate. I'm just your eternal servant of the servant of the servant. Even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his ecstasies in Puri, it's very interesting when he would come out of his deepest, most profound ecstasies of Radha Bhava. He would explain it in such a way. He wasn't Radharani, even though he is Radharani. He wasn't Radharani playing with Krishna. He was always the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. Radha, he would see Radha Radharani and Gopinath in a cave in Govardhan, and one of the gopis tells him, go collect flowers and bring it to them, and they're collecting. Chatak Parvata, when he goes into the ocean, he comes out and he says, I was seeing Krishna and Gopis and Radha having their splashing fights. His highest ecstasies were always in the mood of being the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. For Krishna's satisfaction. So, unfortunately, the material energy, the illusory energy of Maya, is so powerful that she can cover us with so many different kinds of dresses of illusory conceptions. And as soon as we start identifying with those material designations, then a whole array of unwanted desires start affecting us. We see some people, they have to have more and more money. Some people have to have more fame. Some have to have more prestige. Some have to have more and more sex. Some have to have more and more knowledge to show people that they have. Some people have to, sometimes a scientist, just the satisfaction of knowing that I have discovered something that nobody's ever seen. If there's so many different, according to one's guna and one's karma and the ego, one is covered up by the clothes. And then along with it comes so many distractions. Well, even Maya does the same thing to a devotee. If just becoming a devotee and taking the external forms of doing our sadhana and dressing in a certain way and following certain regulative principles, if that was enough, we wouldn't need all this information. But the reality, even if we start doing those things, if we do them for the wrong purposes, we're not going to really be doing them right for very long. We can start getting an ego that I'm better than you because I know more than you. I'm better than you because I can fast longer than you. I'm better than you because I've gone to more Mangal artis than you. I'm better than you because I've dressed the deities more than you. Or I could cook better than you. Or more people dance in my kirtans than you. Or I have CDs and you don't have CDs. Or I'm better than you because my husband is a counselor. Or I'm better than you because my wife is on the marriage board, or whatever it is. Or I'm better than you because my son is Gauranga. I'm only joking, Mataji. I was putting everyone to sleep, so I had to say something like that. So anyways, whatever I'm saying is joking analogies. But, the reality is that in whatever situation we're in, Maya is there to try to trap us by putting these dresses on us with these designations to inflate our egos. And it's very important that we understand when we put the trees of the cloth of our egos on these trees, it really means giving up all these sense of designations so that we're really in that spirit for Krishna's pleasure. It's not about me. And in the name of religion in the world today, there's probably the hugest amount of false ego. It's quite amazing. As much as politics, as much as business and industry, there is ego and envy and everything else in the name of religion. All religions. That's how Maya is there to trap us at every step. Therefore, it's so important to understand what real religion actually is. It's not about our designations, our titles. It's not even so much about our external accomplishments. It's about how much we've actually given up our false egos. How much we're actually there. Nadanam najanam nasundarim. Our motivation is really for Krishna. Krishna is not a facility to give spiritual credibility to fulfilling my ego's desires. That's what usually happens in the name of religion and God throughout history of the world. Is God becomes like a facility to justify my ego and my desires and give it absolute credibility. So therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, before even giving this verse, Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim, he's teaching us Trinada Visunichena. Amani Namanatena Kirtaniya Sadhari. And this is the Gopis in the highest state. The most humility. The total most surrender for the will of Krishna without any material desires, without any material designations. Why do they want Krishna to be their husband in this sense? They are willing to go to hell forever to cure him of a headache for 1 second. So being in this role, I could do that the best. That is their spirit. It's the purest love. And in today's verse, Krishna is telling the Gopis, because now they're fully dressed, he gave their clothes back to them, but they didn't want to go anywhere because they were happy with Krishna. With or without their clothes, they just wanted to satisfy Krishna. Everything was for Krishna. Krishna sent them back to perform their duties in the village of Braj. So as we are performing our duties wherever they may be, we cannot imitate Gopis, but we honor and worship the principle of their egoless surrender, their pure love in that state as the highest aspiration and the ultimate goal of chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare questions?
Maharaj, you are speaking about the highest standard of Gaudiya Sampradaya. Is the na janam na sundarim kavitam. So I always have this doubt in my mind is we try to go on that level, means we really struggle to come to that level of na dhanam na janam na sundarim. But we have seen this material world is a really crazy place and we really want to get out from this mess. So when Mahaprabhu says na janmani, that is very fearful. We don't want to come here. We want to serve Krishna in spiritual world but not in this material world because it is so difficult to maintain this consciousness and these anarthas are always haunting us. And in that circumstances to maintain this standard is so difficult. So we want to serve but we don't want to serve in this material world. We want to serve in spiritual world only. So that is not the standard which Mahaprabhu wants. Mahaprabhu wants to do it this way. So we cannot get that pure devotional nectar if we have this consciousness, or Mahaprabhu can give us some concession and we can do it in spiritual world.
Thank you. Thank you. For the very reason, look at this book. It's coming from the Sharanagati library. Do you get your books from the Sharanagati library? In other words, all these books are ultimately for this purpose of Sharanagati. What pleases Krishna. And this is the extent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's selfless devotional service. Your question is actually an appreciation of the depth of what he's saying. Because for so many of us, we recite this Shikshastakam sometimes every day and we think, very nice, I know it by memory and I'm trying to live by it. But it's only by grace that we can actually understand even a clue of what's being said with some realization. And this is such a profound state that I just want to be your servant, birth after birth after birth. That means my willingness, Krishna, even if you want me to suffer, even if you want me to be tested by all these distractions, ultimately I'm yours. I have no conditions. The spiritual world, everything is so easy and nice, so let me just go there. That's also a good prayer. You can pray like that if you like. But ultimately, whatever pleases Krishna. Ashlasya vapadaratam panashtamam. In other words, what you're saying is you want Krishna to embrace you, but you don't want him to trample on you. Yes? Hari Hari. It's a higher state of pure love. Krishna, I'm yours. At the same time, we're praying to Krishna to free us from the clutches of the ego. We're praying to Krishna to purify us from lust and envy and anger and greed and arrogance and illusion, all the things that keep us bound to this world. So in that sense, we want to have the consciousness of the spiritual world. But we want to have that pure, unalloyed consciousness of the spiritual world beyond the influences of Maya, not because we want to enjoy that state, but because we want to be enjoyed by that state, because then we can actually offer Krishna pure love. And in that pure love, wherever you want me, Krishna, I'm yours. So it's good that you're being humbled by that prayer. Would you like to say anything else?
Raj, this consciousness, if you don't get in this lifetime, then what is the result we'll get?
It's only by Krishna's grace, by Sri Radha's grace, that we can ever have access to this consciousness. So we have to totally put this is Sharanagati. Without your grace, I cannot have a pure heart. Without your grace, I cannot overcome lust or envy or anger or pride or greed. These are very powerful forces. Selfishness, ego, it's only by grace. And bhakti is to humble ourselves to that grace. We're dependent on that grace. And we're praying for that grace, and we're living in such a way. Krishna tells in Gita that if you just surrender to me sincerely, I will preserve what you have and I will carry what you lack. Carry what you lack means His grace will subsidize whatever we're lacking. And that is our ultimate hope. If you thought that you can do it in this lifetime, you're disqualified. But if you know that you cannot do it in this lifetime, and like a baby crying for mother, trying our very best in every way, and by Krishna's grace and Radharani's grace, then He will do it for you in this lifetime.
Raj, I'm asking a very straightforward question. Is from last today is 25th birthday of Gopinath.
Today or tomorrow?
Tomorrow. So from last so many years we are hearing your classes. Now, I remember in early years, Maharaj, we were hearing lots of classes of yours. And somehow I was always feeling it that I was like a spoon feeding from you. Every time I was so much dependable, and I was feeling it, you are there, so I'm protected. But for the last about 2-3 years, I'm watching that you are not able to give so much time to us, and we are feeling I'm talking about myself, Maharaj, feeling a little bit more insecure. So, I would like to know very clearly that in your physical absence in Gopinath temple, what we should take it very seriously in our Krishna consciousness, by which we can maintain the fire of Krishna consciousness very seriously, and our Krishna consciousness goes on increasing as and when our years increases, our age increases in this material world, and don't compromise Krishna consciousness at all, even if you are not physically present over here. What are the points that we have to take it very seriously, that in your absence also we can maintain Krishna consciousness very seriously, and the fire goes on increasing also?
Machchata madgata prona. Krishna tells Gita that my devotees, they come together to discuss my glories and my names. And they take great pleasure doing so. Tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti madbhakta. Krishna tells, I am wherever my devotees have come together to chant my names and glories. Srila Prabhupada, who is our founder Acharya, all any of us could do is to share Prabhupada's message and share Prabhupada's grace. We are nothing except little messengers of Srila Prabhupada's grace. And Prabhupada himself, our founder Acharya, when it appeared he could leave the world to his very new devotees who he was spoon-feeding, he said, if you're chanting Hare Krishna together and I'm chanting, we're always together. There's the Vani and there's the Vapu. There's the physical presence and there's the instructions. And when a little bird is kind of kicked out of the nest to fly on its own, it's quite scary for the little bird, but it's necessary to actually take responsibility for all that that little bird has been given. So in the beginning stages of Krishna conscious, we're taking and taking and taking. But then at a certain point, to make more advancement, we have to give what we've been taken. And in doing so, of course, we have to keep taking. But the realization of it comes as we're trying to, through our service, through our sharing, through our giving. That's responsibility. Our tendency is we want things to just stay the way we once liked them. But that's just never the way things are. It's just not the way things are. We could look at so many histories. If we look at Christianity, I'm sure every Christian would have liked to just be 6 or 12 people just sitting with Jesus all day and night. And then all of a sudden he has thousands of followers, and then all of a sudden he's crucified, and then all of a sudden he's not there anymore. So it's not that they just said, well, what's the use? Why aren't we just sitting on the bank of the Sea of Galilee with Jesus, 12 of us now? There's Romans trying to kill us, and Jesus is gone, and everybody, they carried on. Yes? Srila Prabhupada, he began with just a few people, and everybody was just a little family, and then soon he was all over the world, and those people had to take so many responsibilities, and then he left. So we can't depend on a circumstance that we once had to be forever. It's not the way we grow, and it's not the reality of the world. If we're actually surrendering to Krishna, we have to adjust to the particular scenario of the time with all that we've been given. Yes? This is natural.
What are the precautions that we have to take in your absence that our Krishna consciousness has not been sacrificed?
In one sense, when a little child is being disciplined by the parents, they grow. But at a certain point where they're not being disciplined and they have to make decisions on their own on the basis of what they've learned, they actually have the power to grow more. Yes? We need each other. This is the instruction that Prabhupada has always given us. We need each other. And we should keep the higher principle always between each other. We shouldn't let the mundane ego or mundane conceptions. Krishna tells, Prabhupada uses the example that bamboo trees are growing from the same root, the bamboo branch, the bamboo stalks, they're growing from the same root. And wind comes, makes them rub, and creates fire. And it burns down the forest. So that's the way the world is. The winds of material energy are going to always try to create friction between us. And we have to be above and beyond all this. And that doesn't mean everybody else has to be above and beyond this in order to work with me. That means we have to be above up. Each of us has to take the responsibility to be above and beyond us, to work with others. Because our own philosophy is we start applying it to everyone else except ourselves. That's another way of Maya tricking us. So it's very important that the purpose of this temple is to create a community of devotees who are focused on a higher principle. And as we grow older in our Krishna consciousness, we should feel the weight of a heavier responsibility to actually be living in this, according to this principle, and actually contributing this spirit to the community. And if we're only contributing when things are favorable, then we're not contributing much of anything. We have to contribute this principle of giving and receiving on this higher principle of Vaishnava etiquette, Vaishnava exchange, selfless service, beyond our ego, beyond everyone else's ego. It's not that I can only become purified when everybody else is purified. Everybody else's anarthas are there to help me become purified. Yes? We expect some ideal situation. But if it was an ideal situation, you would make no advancement. The ideal situation is when we're actually agreeing on a higher principle. And when that's not there, I still hold my integrity for that higher principle. That's how we progress. And as we grow, we should sense more of a responsibility to be a protector and caretaker of the Vaishnava Dharma, of the Vaishnava culture. And in order to do that, we really have to access a lot of grace. Because as we grow, we realize how much responsibility we have now and how weak and inefficient we are. Yes? That's the way we're supposed to feel. When Prabhupada was on Jaladuta, he wasn't, my guru has given me responsibility to spread this mission through the world. I know the Bhagavatam, I will do it. He was praying, Krishna, I have no power. Only if you give me the words. Only your grace can make it happen. So in our situations, we have, as we become more years in our devotional service, we actually have more responsibility to emulate and live by these principles and to try to create real unity in devotion within the community. But yet we're so inefficient and insufficient. But this responsibility is on our head. So how we have to really, really try to live and put aside all of these designations, anarthas, and misconceptions, and false expectations, and really live by these truths. And how we have to actually really take shelter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and really take shelter of Krishna's holy names, and really take shelter of these beautiful prayers and bhajans, really take shelter of Radha Gopinath, who has given us everything, really take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, who has given everything, really take shelter of each other for support.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Thank you. Nothing else. This is quite historical. There's no more questions. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.